Right, question 3 involves the query change, and we're going to have to make a number of changes to it. Most of it again, in fact, all of it will be done in Design View. So before I even start a question, I'm going to go and have a look at the query. There it is. In Data View, there's a name, a surname, a gender, date of birth, and sales. Well, it's not necessary for you to know exactly what's being stored in the table. It does help to get an idea of what you're working with. So I always have a look in Datasheet View first before I go into Design View, and then I go back and start to read my questions. Okay, the records must be in alphabetical order, first by surname and then by first name. So first surname and then, okay, now my problem is that if I sort them this way, it's going to sort them first of all by name. Well, easiest way to fix that is just swap the order around. Make that the surname, make that the name, and then we just sort first of all by surname, ascending, and then ascending. So basically works from left to right. First of all, you can have a sort by as many fields as you like, and then we can see, for example, that Keisha Africa comes before Lauren Africa, etc., etc. So that's been handled. I'm going to go back into Design View, and generally what you do is after each sub-question you go and check what's happening to your query. Okay, or even during the query, as we'll see now. Only those records where the surname starts with a G must be shown. So anything with a G, like Gibson, Gower, Grundling, anything like that. Okay, so surname. Right, and now we get used to this idea in Access, and in fact we've even got an Excel idea of a wildcard, that if we say G and then star, as far as Access is concerned, is I just need anything with G, and that star means I don't care. It can be anything afterwards. The other way around, if I said it like this, that would mean I don't care what it starts with, but as long as it ends with a G. Or if I'm looking with any text that contains any one that contains the text GRB, I could do something like that. But in this case, they want those surnames starting with a G, and lo and behold, it changes it slightly. Don't freak out. It puts in inverted commas and uses the like operator. It's not necessary for you to type that. In fact, I would suggest that you don't, because it just wastes time. And we run it, and now we should have just people with G's in there. Okay. And we can see that some people have got genders listed and some people don't, which is probably a question that's coming up. And right, only the records of entrants born after 1970. Okay, so in other words, not 1970, but 1971 onwards, so 72, 73, 74, and so forth. So we don't want 1970, but anything from 1971 onwards. So I'm going to go back into my Design View and my date. Let's have a look at it and say, right, let's look at those dates. What I'm going to do is just cheat slightly and just say, right, I'm just going to copy that for the date format. And I'm just going to just save me a bit of typing. You'll see what I mean now. Date of birth. Okay, so from 1971 afterwards. Now, the first date in 1971 would be, okay, first of all, I'll change that year there. The first date in 1971 would be the 1st of January. So it would be 0101. You always got to check whether it includes that or doesn't include the first date. It does. And now we run our query. Okay, and now you can see it's only people included from 1971. Still the surnames with a G. And if we go back into our Design View, you'll see it's changed something slightly. It's going to put hashtags in there. Okay, hash signs in there. Okay, it's not a Twitter account. Yeah, it's simply just Access to indicate that it's dealing with the date. But for your intents and purposes, you could do that. And you could even say, and less than equal to, if you wanted it in a particular range. So you could say, and less than equal to 1980, 10101, or whatever it was. They didn't want it in this case. They just wanted that. So that's your criteria that you've got. Only records with a value in the gender field. Okay, we saw just now that some fields had a value, some didn't. Okay, if you wanted to find those that didn't have a value, in other words, were blank, you would just simply type in is null. Is and null. That would give you the ones that don't have a value. Okay, and there are some there, as you can see, but we want the opposite of that. In other words, we want the ones that do have a value. Well, the opposite of that is just to say star, because remember, star means anything. Okay, it doesn't mean it's valid, it just means it's got a value in it. So I'm going to run it. Okay, and those are all the ones that have got values entered for the gender field. Okay, so we're moving quite quickly through this. And now a calculated field. Okay, something new that we're going to have. So what we want now is we've got those fields. We want another field here called bonus. Okay, I'm just going to do that without even looking at the calculation. I'm going to go and add that in. So I'm going to move this across a little bit. Okay, I've just added a space here for an extra column. I've made it nice and wide so I can see what I'm typing. And without even looking at the calculation, I know that the label for that field is bonus, and the way that you indicate that it's a label is you just say colon. So all access or interpret that is, it needs a new heading for that particular column. Please note it doesn't add, please note that it doesn't add a new field into your table. It's just for the purpose of the query. Now let's go and look at the calculation. I'm going to show the bonus. Each employee is awarded if they make 100 Rand for each sale that they make. So there's a sales field that tells me how many sales they've made, 10 or 20 or 30 or 25 or whatever it is, and they get 100 Rand for each sale. So this is simply going to be 100. You don't put in Rand signs or anything, multiplied by the field, which is sales, and you simply put that in square brackets. Remember, it's quite a common convention that we have, and we'll see it in reports later, that we refer to the field name, we put it in square brackets. Okay, so there we go. Remember to tick it to see that it's valid. Now let's just run it and see what we've got. Okay, so there it is over there, 300, and they're timesing that by 100. That would be fine. If you needed to format the field in any way, you would just simply go and right click and go to properties, and you could change it to whatever format you need. In this case, it has been formatted as currency already, so you don't need to make any changes. Okay, so any type of thing that you're doing, and another common type of question would be, I'm going to type it just below here just to give you an example. Please note it's not part of the question. For example, if you had to work out VAT or something like that, you could say it's 14 divided by 100, because they don't have a percentage operator, unfortunately, in Access, times let's just say it's the annual salary, or times amount, or whatever it happened to be, and that would be another way of doing a calculation. Obviously not applicable to this query. This is the query, this is the calculation we needed. Basically, everybody must get that. In other words, you must be able to at least put the label in, and you should get most of the query right, because the calculation right, because they're normally fairly simple. Again, it works with dates or whatever the field is, doesn't matter. You can use the plus and the minus and the subtract and all that good stuff that you know from maths. Okay, so calculated field, and I'll run it, and then lo and behold, that's what it is. And that pretty much covers some of the most advanced things in terms of criteria that you're going to get into a query. Remember, the simple things also work as well. Like we said, you can have in the range, you can have greater than equal to and less than equal to, all those type of things. And then we've looked at the wild card there, the stars. Twice we've looked at it there. We've looked at a date question, and we said the opposite to that, if you wanted to find blanks, is space null, N-U-L-L, and then we've looked at a calculated field.